For many centuries, Earth had been quiet. Not the quiet of an empty world, but the calm of a world that had learned enough pain and chosen peace. Long ago, when the stars began to open their doors to the young civilizations of the galaxy, Earth had been invited too. Every planet with a voice sent greetings to the stars. They built great transmitters and glowing beacons that shouted their existence into the endless dark, but Earth never replied. The people of Earth listened. They watched the signals pass through the sky like silver threads connecting world to world. They studied the languages, the codes, the greetings, the pride and arguments of thousands of alien races, but they said nothing back. The Galaxy Council, a gathering of ancient and powerful species, took notice. To them, Earth's silence was strange. They had watched many new civilizations grow, some loud, some humble, but never one that simply refused to speak. At first, they were patient. "Perhaps they are still learning," said the Saroon archivist, a creature made of gentle light. "It is common for new species to fear the unknown." But decades passed, then centuries, and still nothing from Earth. The silence became a mystery, a whisper that spread across space. Ships from the Council passed by Earth's system often, observing from a distance. The humans allowed them to look but never opened communication. From orbit, Earth looked like a peaceful jewel. Blue oceans, green forests, bright cities glowing like constellations on land. The planet seemed alive and thriving, but its people remained unseen and unheard. Some called Earth the sleeping planet. Others called it the quiet jewel. But many began to think of it as arrogant. The Council, proud and ancient, did not like being ignored. Humanity, however, had their reasons. After the Third Global Accord, Earth had changed deeply. The old conflicts that had once divided nations finally ended. Borders softened, then disappeared. Hunger and disease began to fade as humans learned how to care for one another and the planet that had carried them for so long. For the first time in their history, humans felt at peace, not perfect, but peaceful enough to dream together. And when they first detected alien voices from beyond the solar system, humanity was filled with wonder. Yet they did not rush to reply. They remembered their past, the noise, the anger, the endless competition that had once defined them. They decided to listen first, so they built listening towers instead of transmitters, observatories instead of warships. Scientists, poets, and philosophers gathered under quiet domes, writing down everything they heard from the stars. They studied alien cultures, learned alien patterns of speech, their habits, their histories, their mistakes. Humanity listened and learned, and the more they listened, the more they realized something. Even among the stars, old patterns repeated. The Council worlds argued constantly about power, borders, and pride. Races that had lived for thousands of years still treated one another with suspicion. The galaxy was full of wisdom and yet still full of ego, so Earth remained silent. To the humans, silence was not weakness. It was their shield, their peace, their way of understanding before acting. As centuries passed, a whole generation of humans grew up who had never known the noise of war or fear. They grew up under gentle skies in a world that felt healed. Children learned languages from far-off stars. Artists painted what alien worlds might look like. Scientists built small ships that wandered quietly beyond the solar system, powered by sunlight and curiosity, but they always kept their transmitters off. The rest of the galaxy watched in confusion. "Why do they not speak?" asked the Telleri, a crystalline species known for their endless questions. "Do they think they are better than us?" hissed a Varan, its scales glinting like bronze under the light of its twin suns. The Galaxy Council tried many times to contact Earth directly. They sent ambassadors, robotic messengers, and transmissions of friendship. All were received, but none were answered. It became a story that young species were told as a warning. Do not be like Earth. The silent ones think they are wise, but silence is loneliness. Yet on Earth, things were different. The people did not see themselves as lonely. They were together in ways no generation before had ever known. They worked to restore the seas and skies. They filled deserts with life again. They sang songs about the stars, but were in no hurry to join them. For humans, the universe was vast, and they had learned that shouting into it might not be the best way to be heard. One quiet evening, on a small hill overlooking the Pacific Ocean, a scientist named Dr. Amira Solon stood beside the old radio telescope. It was ancient technology now, a museum piece compared to the new quantum sensors in orbit. But she loved it. It reminded her of when humanity first looked up with hope, not pride. Her apprentice, a young man named Elias, stood beside her. "Dr. Solon," he said, adjusting a small screen. The council transmitted again. "They're asking why we ignore them." Amira smiled softly. "We do not ignore them, Elias. We hear every word. But why don't we answer?" "Wouldn't it be polite?" She looked at him, her eyes thoughtful. "Polite, yes, but we are not ready yet. They do not speak to understand. They speak to be heard. Until they learn to listen, words will only create noise." Elias frowned. "And if they never learn?" Amira gazed at the stars where thousands of signals danced like fireflies. "Then we will keep listening. Sometimes silence is the loudest truth." Far away, at the heart of the Galaxy Council, a meeting was called again. Representatives of over 1,000 species gathered in the Grand Chamber of Lights, a massive hall suspended within a glowing nebula. The meeting's topic: the case of the silent planet Earth. The Council's supreme speaker, a being made of soft golden mist, floated to the center. "For over 3 centuries," it began, "the world called Earth has refused every invitation, every question, every word we've sent. What shall we do about this?" The chamber filled with murmurs. "They think themselves too wise," cried one delegate. "They must be afraid," said another. "Perhaps their world has fallen silent because they destroyed themselves," whispered a third. The golden mist rippled. "Enough, we will send a final message. If they still do not reply, we will close the case. The galaxy has no time for ghosts." And so another message was sent, louder, brighter, more public than ever. It was broadcast across open space for all species to hear. "Earth," the message said, "we, the Galaxy Council, extend one final invitation. Your silence dishonors the unity of the stars. Speak, or be forgotten." The message echoed for days across the void. On Earth, the people heard it clearly. But as always, the world remained calm. The seas still shimmered. The cities still glowed. Life went on. Some humans wondered if it was time to respond. But the leaders, scientists, and citizens all agreed. Not yet. They knew words had power. And once spoken, they could not be taken back. The Galaxy Council grew impatient. Soon jokes began to spread between planets, mocking stories, false images, and playful songs about Earth's quietness. The mute world, they called it. The planet that fears its own voice. At first, the jokes were small and harmless. But slowly they became sharper. "Perhaps Earth's people never existed," one counselor said during a public session. "Maybe it's just a world of machines repeating the silence of their dead makers." Laughter filled the hall. Far away, on a small blue planet, humans still heard everything. In one observatory on the far side of the moon, a young technician named Maya heard the mocking broadcast and felt her chest tighten. "They're laughing at us," she said softly. Her supervisor, an older man named Jiro, didn't look away from his console. "Let them laugh. But why? We've done nothing wrong." Jiro smiled faintly. "That's why it hurts them. They don't understand peace yet." Maya frowned. "Do you think we'll ever answer them?" "Maybe," he said. "When the stars are ready to listen, not to laugh." And with that, he returned to his work, monitoring the signals that crossed the endless sky one after another, like whispers of stories waiting to be understood. Earth stayed quiet, but the silence wasn't empty. It was filled with purpose, patience, and a strange kind of strength. The humans knew something the others had forgotten, that sometimes true wisdom doesn't shout, it waits. And though the Galaxy Council mocked and doubted, the people of Earth continued to build, to learn, and to dream, because deep down, they knew a truth that the stars had yet to discover. When Earth finally decided to speak, the galaxy would never be the same. The galaxy was loud. Every day, thousands of voices filled the stars, messages of trade, discovery, pride, and argument. The Galaxy Council's communication halls sparkled with colors and sounds from every known world. Except one. Earth. The silent, blue planet still sent no words, no greetings, no answers. And that silence, after centuries of patience, began to feel like an insult to the Council's pride. At first, they tried to understand. But as time went on, curiosity turned into annoyance, and annoyance slowly turned into mockery. In the Grand, Chamber of the Galaxy Council. Hundreds of delegates gathered under a sky of silver light. The air shimmered with the gentle hum of translation fields. Representatives from thousands of planets took their places, some with wings, some with glowing skin, some made of living crystal. At the center of the great hall floated the Supreme Speaker, a being of soft golden mist named Arthun. Its voice was calm but tired. "We gather again to discuss the matter of Earth," Arthun began. "The silent planet remains unresponsive. 324 years of observation. Countless attempts to communicate. And still, no reply." A soft wave of murmurs spread through the crowd. Then, from the far end of the hall, a tall and sharp-eyed being stood. His name was Kor Varan, a representative from a proud reptilian race known for its temper. His golden scales shimmered as he spoke. "Enough patience," Kor said firmly. "We have reached out to them more times than any other young species. We have offered knowledge, guidance, even protection. And what have they given in return? Silence. They act as if they are above us." The words stirred the chamber. Some nodded in agreement, others remained quiet. A silver-winged delegate from the planet Saren spoke next. Her tone was soft, cautious. "Perhaps they simply do not wish to join us yet. We should not mistake quietness for pride." Kor's eyes flashed. "Silence is a choice, Sirun. And in a galaxy built on unity, that choice is disrespect." The chamber fell into uneasy silence. Arthun, the Supreme Speaker, sighed. "And what do you suggest, Representative Kor?" Kor's mouth curved in a small smile. "If they refuse to speak with dignity, then perhaps they should be taught humility. Let us show them that their quietness is noticed. Let the stars know what kind of world Earth truly is." Several voices murmured in approval, and so it began. The first insults were small and clever. The Varan Press Network, broadcast that reached thousands of worlds, released a story called "The Planet That Sleeps." It was presented as humor, not hatred. The article described Earth as a lazy world, too afraid to join the galaxy. Its people were painted as slow thinkers hiding behind oceans and clouds. Other planets joined in, turning Earth's silence into entertainment. Holovids were made showing actors pretending to be Earthlings, sitting quietly, staring at the sky, doing nothing. The joke spread fast. Even children on distant worlds began to tease each other using the phrase "don't be an Earthling," meaning, "don't be so quiet." Across the galaxy, laughter followed the name of Earth. On the real Earth, the people heard it all. Every transmission, every joke, every careless word was captured by the silent observatories hidden in orbit. In the lunar listening base, Maya, the young technician from before, sat before a glowing screen filled with alien symbols. Her heart felt heavy as she read the latest broadcast. "They've made another story," she said softly. "They say we are afraid of our own voices." Her supervisor, Jiro, walked over and stood beside her. His expression was calm, almost peaceful. "Let them talk," he said. "They talk because they do not understand." "But doesn't it hurt you?" Maya asked. "They think we're weak." Jiro smiled faintly. "Once, long ago, humans believed noise meant strength too. But now we know that silence can be stronger. Patience is not weakness, Maya. It is control." She looked back at the glowing screen. "And if they keep insulting us?" Jiro's eyes turned toward the dark window, where the curve of Earth glowed below. "Then one day, we will answer. But not with anger. We'll answer in a way they'll never forget." Back on the Council worlds, the mockery grew louder. In the following months, the Council held public debates where Earth's name was often mentioned. Some members demanded Earth's removal from the registry of recognized worlds. Others laughed and agreed. "They contribute nothing," said one delegate from the Astar Belt colonies. "They have no trade, no diplomacy, no science shared with others. They sit there, a blue ornament in space, pretending to be mysterious." A council artist even created a holographic image of Earth wrapped in glowing chains, calling it the Mute Jewel. It was displayed in the council's central plaza, a public space visited by millions each day. Children pointed and laughed. Visitors took pictures. Earth, once respected for its quiet dignity, was now a symbol of foolishness. But what the galaxy didn't know was that Earth had been watching all along. In the central observatory of Earth, deep beneath the green hills of what was once Switzerland, a meeting was held. Around a large glass table sat the members of the Earth Unity Council, leaders, scientists, and scholars from every continent. The air was calm, but everyone felt the weight of what they had heard from the stars. Dr. Amira Solon, now older and gray-haired, was present as an advisor. Her voice was gentle but firm. "They laugh because they do not know us," she said. "They think silence is emptiness, but silence can also mean waiting for the right time." A diplomat named Ren Patel frowned. "But how long do we wait, Doctor? The galaxy thinks we are cowards. Their messages are spreading fast. Our young people are beginning to question our choice." Amira looked around the table. "Then perhaps it is time to ask ourselves what silence means to us now. Is it still peace or fear?" The room fell quiet. Finally, one of the engineers, a quiet woman named Hannah, spoke. "We built our world on peace. But peace doesn't mean hiding. Maybe it's time to speak. Not in anger, but in truth." Heads turned toward her. The idea hung in the air like a seed waiting for sunlight. Amira nodded slowly. "If we speak, we must do so as who we are. Not as conquerors, not as beggars, but as learners and guardians. Our voice must remind them why silence has meaning." Meanwhile, the insults continued to spread across the stars. One day, during a council assembly, the Varans released a dramatic broadcast. It showed a fake image of Earth, dark and cracked, with a narrator saying, "The planet that feared the galaxy so much it buried its own voice." The hall burst into laughter, but that laughter did not last long. A few hours later, the Council's communication network received a strange signal. It came from deep space, calm, rhythmic, and beautifully structured. It wasn't a message of words, but of sound. It was a song, soft at first, like the wind over water, then rising slowly into a harmony that filled every receiver across the galaxy. The melody carried no threat, no anger, only peace and a strange kind of sorrow. No one could trace where it came from. But some recognized the pattern. "Is it Earth?" whispered a delegate. No answer came. The song played for 7 minutes, then faded. The entire galaxy went silent, unsure of what it had just heard. Back on Earth, in the quiet of the Central Observatory, Dr. Amira Solon stood beside the transmitter. Her eyes were filled with tears as the last notes of the song echoed away into the stars. "We did not speak," she said softly. "We simply reminded them we are here." Maya, standing beside her, whispered, "Do you think they'll stop mocking us now?" Amira smiled sadly. "No, not yet. But they will start to wonder. And wondering is the first step toward respect." Across the galaxy, something began to change. A few races stopped laughing. Some scientists began to study the mysterious song, realizing its mathematical perfection. The melody was more than art. It carried coded patterns of Earth's atmosphere, oceans, and life signatures. It was a greeting, but a silent one. A message that said, "We hear you. Do you hear us?" And yet the council still felt mocked. Corvaran, furious that Earth had answered without using words, demanded another public debate. "This is their idea of communication?" he shouted. "A song with no words? Do they think this is clever?" But the Ceruan delegate, the gentle one with silver wings, spoke quietly. "Perhaps it is not cleverness, Representative. Perhaps it is grace." For the first time, the chamber fell silent. Truly silent. Even Kor could find no response. On Earth, life continued as before. The people returned to their work, their studies, their music. But a quiet strength now flowed through their hearts. They had sent something to the stars, a simple song that said everything words could not. The young and the old alike began to feel proud again. Not proud in arrogance, but proud in peace. Maya looked up at the sky one night and whispered, "We didn't shout. We just sang." And somewhere, across the endless galaxy, someone listened. The laughter of the council began to fade, replaced by questions. What kind of world could create such beauty from silence? The stars had started to wonder, and Earth, still calm and patient, knew the time for true words was coming soon, because silence had done its part. The next voice Earth spoke would change everything. For centuries, Earth had been silent, but now, for the first time in galactic history, the silence began to move. It started with the song, the one that spread through the stars like a wave of calm. The Galaxy Council had been stunned by it. No words, no symbols, no threats. Just a melody, soft, mathematical, perfect. A song that carried feelings no translator could capture. The sound lingered in the minds of millions across the galaxy. For days, even the busiest cities of the Council worlds felt quieter, more thoughtful. People found themselves humming the tune without knowing why. The silence that followed felt different now. Less like arrogance, more like patience. But for some in the Council, especially Corvaran and those who shared his pride, the song was an insult. "They mock us," he hissed during a council meeting. "They refuse to speak our language, yet they send us music. They want to show that we are too loud, too proud. No, we cannot allow them to make fools of us." The golden mist of the Supreme Speaker Arthun shimmered quietly. Perhaps it is not mockery, Cor. Perhaps it is their way of saying they are ready. Cor's scales flared in anger. "Then let them speak properly. Let them show respect to the Council, or let us forget them forever." The hall filled with whispers, some agreeing, others uncertain. And then, something unexpected happened. That same night, every receiver in the Council's communication network flickered with a single light. No voice, no picture, just a signal. It lasted exactly 10 seconds. Then, the Council's main screen lit up with a calm blue glow, the color of oceans on Earth. A quiet voice spoke, clear and steady. "This is Earth." The hall went completely silent. Even the translation devices hesitated, as if the universe itself wanted to listen. The voice was human, female, calm, neither young nor old. "For a long time," she continued, "we have listened. We have heard your greetings, your laughter, and your questions. We have also heard your doubts, your anger, and your jokes. And through it all, we stayed silent. Not because we were afraid, but because we were learning." Delegates leaned forward. Some widened their eyes. The voice carried no arrogance, no fear, only truth. "When our people first looked up at the stars," the voice said, "we were still learning how to live with ourselves. We fought, we hurt, we destroyed. We learned the cost of noise. So when we finally found peace, we chose to listen, to understand before we spoke again." A soft image appeared on the screen, the blue curve of Earth seen from space. Clouds swirled gently across the surface, sunlight glinting over oceans. "This is our home," the voice said. "A small world, but it has taught us great things." In the galaxy chamber, the delegates sat frozen. For the first time in memory, the hall was completely quiet. Then the human voice continued. "We have heard how some among you mock us. We have heard how our silence offends your pride. That is understandable. We were once like you. We believed that being heard was proof of strength. But we have learned that sometimes the quietest voice can hold the deepest truth." The image shifted. Now the screen showed scenes of Earth, cities glowing under the night sky, children laughing in fields, forests restored, oceans clear again. "Many of you call yourselves old and wise," the human said. "And perhaps you are. But wisdom does not come only from time. It comes from learning what not to do. We learned that long ago." The Supreme Speaker Arthun watched in awe. Even his golden mist seemed to shimmer more softly. The human continued. "We did not answer before because we did not want to join the noise. We wanted to see what unity meant to you. We wanted to see if you had learned what peace truly is. We have listened for hundreds of years, and we understand now. You are still learning, just as we are." The voice paused. A long, gentle silence filled the air. No one dared to breathe. Then the human spoke again, quietly. "You asked why Earth stayed quiet. Now we ask, why were you so afraid of silence?" The words echoed through the chamber like soft thunder. Corvaran's face stiffened. He tried to speak, but no words came. He felt heat rise beneath his scales, not from anger, but from something he could not name. For the first time, he realized that all his proud words, all his speeches, were nothing compared to the calm power of a single human voice. Across the hall, the Serun delegate lowered her wings respectfully. "They speak not to win," she whispered to a nearby ally, "but to heal." The message continued. Humanity does not seek to rule. We do not seek to hide. We wish only to grow, to learn, and to share when we are ready. Our silence was never rejection. It was preparation. The screen now showed images of human scientists building starships, quiet and graceful. Not warships, but vessels designed for exploration, research, and connection. Their designs glowed softly, shaped like wings of light. "We are coming," the voice said, "not to fight, not to impress, but to meet you as equals." In the Galaxy Council, the hall filled with murmurs again. But this time, the whispers were not mocking. They were amazed, curious, even moved. Kor Varan stood again, his pride shaken but not broken. "And if this is a trick?" he asked loudly. "If they come to deceive us?" The human voice replied instantly, as if expecting the question. "Then listen well, Kor Varan of the Varan Empire. We have no need for tricks. We have no need to prove our worth to you. We are not seeking permission to exist among the stars. We already belong here just as you do." For a moment, Kor could not meet the eyes of anyone around him. The Supreme Speaker spoke gently. "Human of Earth, you have broken a silence that has lasted longer than most of our memories. Tell us, why now?" The human's face appeared on the screen for the first time. She was calm, her eyes kind. "Because," she said softly, "the time for learning in silence has ended. The time for understanding through words must begin. You called us silent ghosts. You laughed, but we forgive you. For laughter is the first sign of misunderstanding, not hatred. We forgive because we remember our own past." She smiled faintly. "We were once loud too." The chamber fell silent again. On Earth, millions watched as their leader spoke. Across every screen in every home and school, people held their breath. Dr. Amira Solon watched from her observatory, tears glistening in her eyes. She whispered, "You did it. You found the right words." The message continued, transmitted across every star system in the Council's reach. "We do not ask for forgiveness. We do not demand respect. We only ask that you listen to us as we listen to you. The galaxy is vast. We will not fill it with noise. But when we speak, we will speak with purpose." The human leaned forward slightly. Her voice grew softer, almost like a whisper. "And this is our first message to the stars. Peace is not the absence of sound. It is the understanding of it." When the broadcast ended, no one in the council chamber moved. The silence that followed was deeper than anything before. It wasn't awkward or cold, it was thoughtful, sacred. Even Kor remained still, his usual sharpness softened by reflection. Finally, the Supreme Speaker rose slowly. His golden mist shimmered brighter, almost glowing with emotion. "Earth," he said, his voice trembling. "You have spoken with more wisdom in 1 hour than many of us have in 1,000 years. You have reminded us why the council was formed. To listen, not only to speak." He looked around the chamber, his golden form expanding. "Let it be known that Earth is no longer the silent planet. Let it be known that today the galaxy has gained not a student, but a teacher." A wave of quiet agreement filled the chamber. Delegates bowed their heads in respect. Back on Earth, celebrations were gentle but heartfelt. There were no fireworks, no shouts, only smiles, quiet songs, and people gathering under the stars to look up in wonder. Maya stood on the rooftop of the lunar base, watching the glowing curve of Earth below. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "We finally spoke." Jiro smiled beside her. "And we didn't raise our voices once." She laughed softly. "Do you think they'll listen?" Jiro looked at the stars, where the council's worlds glimmered like distant lanterns. "Yes," he said. "They already are." Days later, the Galaxy Council sent an official message back to Earth. It was brief and humble. "To the people of Earth, we have heard your voice. May the silence between us now become understanding." When the message reached Earth, humanity smiled. The first true dialogue between Earth and the stars had begun. Not with pride, not with fear, but with peace. And somewhere, Beyond the horizon, Earth's first fleet of peaceful ships began to rise, bright and silent, carrying the spirit of a world that had learned the power of listening before speaking. The galaxy had changed. After Earth's calm and powerful message, a strange silence filled the stars. It was not the cold silence of before, but something softer, like the pause after a deep breath. The words of the human woman echoed across worlds. Peace is not the absence of sound, it is the understanding of it. Those words had touched millions of hearts. Species who had once laughed at Earth now played the song they sent. Children across distant planets began learning the melody, calling it the Song of Peace. But others were not yet convinced. Some council members still doubted Earth's sincerity. To them, words were easy. Proof was harder. Among them was Kor Varan. Though the human message had humbled him, it had also unsettled him. Pride still lived in his heart. They speak well, Kor said during a council session, but anyone can speak well. If they wish to be seen as equals, let them show us who they are. Let them come to us, not in words, but in presence. The council murmured in agreement. The Supreme Speaker, Arthun, shimmered gently. Then we shall invite them, he said. Let Earth send an envoy to the council. Let us meet the voices behind the silence. And so, the invitation was sent. On Earth, the message was received with quiet joy. For many, it felt like history was being written. For the first time, humanity would stand before the Galaxy Council, not as strangers, not as imitators, but as themselves. In the Central Observatory, the Unity Council met again. Dr. Amira Solon sat at the head of the table, her old eyes full of warmth. Around her were scientists, artists, philosophers, and explorers, the best minds of Earth. We have been invited, she said softly. The galaxy wants to see us. Not our technology, not our strength, us. A young engineer, Hana, smiled. Then we will show them what silence has built. Across the world, preparations began. But Earth's way was different. They did not rush. They did not design massive warships or displays of power. Instead, they built something graceful, a fleet made of light and harmony. Each ship was designed with care, shaped like flowing wings, powered by clean energy drawn from the stars themselves. They moved without noise, gliding through space like living art. Their purpose was not to conquer or intimidate, it was to share and connect. They called the lead ship Aurora, and on the day it was ready, all of Earth watched. Children held hands in the streets, elders stood in quiet pride, and music filled the air, not loud music, but the same calm melody that had first reached the stars. As the Aurora rose through the blue sky, sunlight touched its silver hull and the people whispered, "Go and show them who we are." Weeks later, the Galaxy Council gathered once again in their grand chamber of lights. The news had spread across thousands of worlds. The humans are coming. Every delegate, every observer, and every news network was ready. The council plaza shimmered like a field of stars as ships from other planets hovered above, waiting for the arrival. For some, it was excitement. For others, doubt. Kor Varan stood beside the Supreme Speaker, his scales reflecting the chamber's light. "Let us see if their actions match their words," he said. Arthun's golden mist drifted gently. "Patience, Kor. Let us meet them without judgment. They have waited long enough to be heard." Suddenly, the vast chamber darkened. The central screen glowed with soft blue light. The first human ship entered orbit. It did not roar or flash. It appeared quietly, almost like a sunrise in the dark. The Aurora glided into view, sleek, elegant, glowing softly as if carrying the light of Earth within it. The council gasped. It was unlike any ship they had seen. No sharp edges, no weapons, no loud signals. Only grace and balance. "It's beautiful," whispered the Serun delegate. "Like something alive." Kor Varan said nothing. His golden eyes narrowed, studying every detail. The Aurora sent a single transmission. "We are from Earth. We come in peace." Then, from the ship's side, a smaller craft descended. It entered the council's atmosphere, gliding toward the Grand Chamber's landing platform. When the doors opened, the first human stepped out. Her name was Ambassador Lyra Solon, the granddaughter of Dr. Amira Solon. Her hair was silver white, her eyes deep and calm. She wore simple clothing, white and gray, woven from organic materials that shimmered softly under the alien sun. Behind her came three others, a scientist, A musician and a child. The choice surprised everyone. Why a child? Whispered a delegate. The Supreme Speaker only smiled. Perhaps they come to remind us of something we have forgotten. Lyra bowed gently. Greetings, Council of the Galaxy, she said in a clear voice. I am Lyra Solon of Earth. With me are Dr. Jean, our scientist, Mira, our musician, and Kai, our youngest citizen. Corvaran frowned. You send a child to the Council? Lyra smiled kindly. Yes, because the voice of the future must always be present when we speak of peace. A quiet murmur spread through the hall. Lyra stepped forward and looked around the chamber, her expression calm and kind. We come not to prove our worth, but to share who we are. For too long, our silence has been misunderstood. Today we wish to replace it with understanding. She raised her hand, and Mira, the musician, stepped forward. She held a small crystal instrument that shimmered like water. Before we speak more, Lyra said, we wish to show you something. Mira began to play. The music flowed through the chamber like a gentle river. It was the same melody that had once crossed the stars, but this time it was alive. It filled the air with warmth and light. As the song played, holograms appeared in the air, scenes of Earth's history. They showed humans planting trees, building cities, helping one another, and standing together through time. It showed how they learned from mistakes, how they grew from conflict into compassion. The final image was of Earth itself, glowing blue, surrounded by stars. When the song ended, there was silence again, but a good silence. Many council members had tears in their eyes. Lyra spoke softly. We once shouted and destroyed. Then we learned to listen. Now we wish to speak again, not to command, but to connect. The Supreme Speaker floated closer. Your song, it speaks to the heart. We feel your truth. But some will still ask, what do you bring to the galaxy? Lyra looked up, her voice steady. We bring balance. We bring the memory that power means nothing without kindness. We bring curiosity, creativity, and care for all life. We do not come to take, we come to give. She gestured to the young boy, Kai. He stepped forward, holding a small glass sphere. Inside it glowed a soft blue light. This, Lyra said, is the seed of renewal, a creation from our world. It carries the power to restore dead soil and heal damaged ecosystems. A single seed can bring life to barren land. We offer it freely to all worlds that need it. Gasps filled the hall. The Saren delegate stepped forward, her silver wings folding. You would give this freely? Lyra smiled. Yes, because peace must be shared, not sold. The entire chamber filled with whispers. Some could not believe it. Others felt humbled. Even Corvaran was silent, his proud face softened with awe. After the ceremony, the council gathered privately to speak. The Supreme Speaker began. We have seen what they bring. What say you all? One by one the delegates spoke. They are honest. They are peaceful. They are remarkable. Finally, Cor stood. Everyone turned to him. For a long moment he said nothing. Then, with a deep breath, he spoke. I was wrong. The words shocked the hall. Cor continued. I thought silence meant pride. I thought they looked down on us. But now I see they were simply waiting for the right moment. Their silence was wisdom, not arrogance. He turned to Arthune. I vote that Earth be welcomed to the Council, not as a child to be taught, but as a teacher we can learn from. A wave of approval swept through the room. The Supreme Speaker raised his hand. Then it is done. Let it be recorded. Earth, once the silent planet, is now the planet of understanding. When the announcement reached Earth, the entire planet rejoiced, not with noise, but with harmony. Bells rang softly, music filled the air, and people gathered beneath the stars, smiling through tears. Dr. Amira Solon, now in her final years, watched from her garden as the sky glowed with light from the returning ships. She whispered to herself, we did not shout. We simply sang. Her granddaughter Lyra's message had reached not just the Council, but hearts across the galaxy. Soon, many worlds began working with Earth's scientists to restore their lands and oceans. The seed of renewal brought green back to gray planets. Where there was once competition, there was now cooperation. And for the first time in recorded history, the Galaxy Council ended a year without a single interplanetary dispute. On the last day of that year, Lyra stood again before the Council. She looked around at the thousands of faces, her voice soft but firm. "Once you laughed at us for being silent," she said. "Now you see that silence can hold meaning. But remember, our lesson is not silence alone. It is the choice to listen before we speak." The chamber rose to its feet in quiet respect. Lyra bowed. "May every world find its own balance between sound and silence." And with that, the humans of Earth, once the galaxy's mystery, became its reminder of hope. The Galaxy Council had changed forever. After Earth's arrival, nothing was the same. The once noisy and divided chamber, filled with endless debates and prideful arguments, now felt different. There was calmness in the air, a kind of gentle strength that no one had ever known before. The humans had not shouted, had not demanded, had not threatened. They had simply spoken with truth, kindness, and courage. Now the words of Ambassador Lyra Solon were remembered in every corner of the galaxy. Peace is not weakness. Silence is not fear. Listening is not surrender. These words had become a song that traveled through stars and hearts alike. A new dawn months passed since Earth had joined the Council. The seed of renewal, the small glowing creation gifted by the humans, was already bringing life to dying worlds. On the desert planet of Varus, golden dust had begun to turn green. Small streams of water flowed again after centuries of dryness. The Varan people who once doubted Earth now planted the seeds with deep respect. Even Kor Varan, the proud delegate who had once mocked humans, knelt beside his people and placed the seeds himself. "From the silence of Earth," he said softly, came the voice that saved us. On the icy moons of Tyra. Children laughed again as the first flowers bloomed in frozen soil. The Serun delegates, known for their shining silver wings, danced in the air to celebrate the return of color to their world. Everywhere, the galaxy began to heal, not through war, but through care. And in the heart of the Council, Earth's representatives worked side by side with others, helping, teaching, and learning. The meeting of 1,000 voices one bright morning in the Grand Chamber. A great gathering was called, the largest in history. It was known as the Meeting of 1,000 Voices. Delegates from more than 3,000 worlds attended. The purpose was simple: to create a new code, a promise between all civilizations. When the session began, the Supreme Speaker, Arthun, drifted above the shining platform. His golden mist shimmered like morning sunlight. "Long ago," he said, "this council was a place of pride. We believed the loudest voice was the strongest. But now we understand. The strongest voice is the one that speaks for others, not over them." He turned to the human delegation. Earth reminded us of this truth, and for that we are forever grateful. Lyra Solon rose from her seat. She bowed respectfully and stepped forward. "Honored friends," she began softly, "we did not come to lead. We came to listen and to share. We are all travelers in the same vast sea of stars. Each of us carries light, different but beautiful. If we learn to blend our lights, the galaxy will shine brighter than ever before." The chamber filled with silence. No one interrupted her. No one argued. Every eye was on her, every heart open. Lyra continued, "We humans have made many mistakes. Our history was full of noise and anger. But we learned that shouting does not make truth louder. It only hides it. What makes truth powerful is kindness, honesty, and the courage to admit when we are wrong." Her words touched everyone present. From the crowd, a small voice spoke. It was Kai, the young boy who had traveled with Lyra. He stood beside her, holding the small glass sphere that contained the seed of renewal. He looked around and said, "On Earth, my teacher told me that peace is like a garden. It only grows if everyone helps take care of it." The entire hall grew still. Then one by one, the delegates began to stand and clap, softly at first, then louder, until the whole chamber thundered with applause. That day, the council agreed to sign the new promise, the Accord of Harmony. The Accord of Harmony. The accord was simple, written in clear words that every world could understand. It said, "No world shall mock another for its silence or difference. No world shall take from another without giving something in return. Every species has wisdom worth hearing, no matter how small their voice. Peace will be the first step, not the last." When the final line was written, the Supreme Speaker turned to Lyra and said, "Ambassador of Earth, would you give the final signature?" Lyra smiled and placed her hand on the glowing tablet. "For all of us," she whispered. The chamber erupted in light as thousands of signatures appeared across the screen. Each species, each world marking their promise. And as the final light faded, Arthun declared, "Let this day be remembered." The galaxy has listened and learned, seeds among the stars in the months that followed. Earth's influence continued to spread, not through control, but through inspiration. The seeds of renewal were sent to every corner of the galaxy. On dark, forgotten planets, green life began to rise again. On worlds once filled with war, people began to rebuild. Human engineers worked with the Sirun to design clean energy towers powered by sunlight and song. The Tyra scientists helped Earth develop new methods to restore oceans. Together they created what they called the Circle of Life Worlds, a shared project where knowledge and kindness replaced competition. Lyra traveled across many systems, visiting worlds that once mocked Earth. She spoke with leaders, artists, children, and dreamers. Wherever she went, she left behind hope. Her presence reminded everyone that peace was not a dream. It was a choice. The Day of Gratitude. A year later, the Galaxy Council declared a new celebration, the Day of Gratitude. It would be held once every galactic year to honor understanding between worlds. On that day, the Council invited Lyra back to speak again. As she stood before the gathered thousands, she looked out over the sea of faces, different shapes, colors, and forms, but all shining with kindness. Her voice was calm, filled with warmth. "A year ago you called us the Silent Planet," she said. "Now the galaxy sings with the voice of peace. That is not our victory alone, it is yours. Every world that chose kindness over pride, every person who listened before speaking helped shape this harmony." She paused and looked toward the stars beyond the great windows. "Silence taught us to hear. Words taught us to share. Together we have learned to understand." The crowd stood in respect. Some wept softly. Others smiled. Even Kor Varan, once the Council's harshest critic, bowed his head in deep gratitude. The legacy of silence many years passed, and the story of Earth became legend. Children across galaxies studied the tale of the Silent Planet. They learned how a small world, once doubted and mocked, had taught the stars to listen. Every year, on the Day of Gratitude, people would gather to share moments of silence. It was not emptiness, it was connection. In that quiet space, they remembered the courage it took to be kind. On Earth, the skies were now filled with ships from other worlds, visiting, learning, and living together. Humanity had not become rulers. They had become teachers, healers, and friends. Ambassador Lyra Solon, now older and wiser, often sat in her garden under the evening sky. Around her, flowers from a dozen planets bloomed, glowing softly in different colors. One night, Kai, now grown into a young man, joined her. "Do you think the galaxy will always remember?" he asked. Lyra smiled gently. "Maybe not every word, maybe not every face, but they will remember the feeling. The peace, the silence that brought them together." She looked up at the stars, eyes shining. As long as one voice speaks with kindness and one heart listens with love, the galaxy will never forget. A message across time generations later. When new civilizations rose and others faded, a small beacon still traveled through the galaxy. It carried Earth's first message, the one that had changed everything. It was found by explorers far beyond the known stars. When they played it, they heard a calm human voice say, "This is Earth, we have been listening. We come not to conquer, but to understand." The explorers stood in silence, listening to the ancient message. Even though ages had passed, the feeling was still alive. And somewhere, in the quiet of the stars, it was as if the whole galaxy whispered back, "We are listening too." The galaxy listens thus. The story of Earth became a guide for all who sought peace. It reminded every world that strength was not in power or noise, but in compassion and understanding. The Galaxy Council continued to grow, now united under the spirit of the Accord of Harmony. The once noisy chamber became a symbol of wisdom. No longer did voices clash like storms. Instead, they flowed like rivers, finding balance and meaning. And at the center of it all, on a small blue planet that once stayed quiet, the people of Earth looked to the stars not with fear, not with pride, but with gentle hope, because they knew now that silence, when born of love, could echo louder than any shout.